Before we move on to the next section, can we talk about once again the hero of our time, Marcus Rashford, taking the government to task and the food scandal?
Oh yes,
Did you see this? While you're
of
sitting
course.
there in your ivory tower eating your beer battered cod, there
Of
are
course,
people
yeah.
starving. It's not your fault. It's not your fault at all. It's the fault of these bloody incompetent people running our country. Did you know? Did you see what Jacob Rees-Mogg said about fish yesterday?
What did he
Oh
say
my
about
God.
fish?
People are deluded and people vote for this bloke, right? He says, well, what we do know about fish now is that we've got them back. They're British fish and they're much, much happier for it. He said
The happier fish.
the fish are
I
happier.
don't know, mate. It makes a pretty good point. They probably are. Because they're bloody British, and now they understand British values.
But he meant it sincerely. He is an
I know.
absolute lunatic. What a loser. And Matt Hancock, it really, really saddens me. It really saddened me that it's not. I was thinking of doing a sketch on someone else, but I was like, I don't find it funny at all. These people running this country do not give a shit. They are so detached from, and I've not come from poverty by any stretch, but I can at least understand that there are people in this country who aren't just all criminals and stuff, who actually need to feed their children, because it's really tough to do that for a lot of people in this country. And then so they just give it out to their mates at Chartwell, spent 30 quid each per packet to give £5 worth of food, pocketed the other 25 quid. That's taxpayer money as well. So it's not even like that is private sector working inefficiently. That is coming out of public sector funds, then working inefficiently. And they're just not trained in humanity. Matt Hancock is completely trained in PR. That's why he couldn't answer a fucking question the other day. He couldn't answer a fucking question because they know they're PR trained to the hill that he can't say anything that will be used as a headline. So he won't admit to regretting it or anything like that. And they're just because it's all about retaining power for them. That is all it is. So they're just thinking of fighting the PR war, and they don't give a shit about the people running this country. Politics is fucked at the moment, man. Did you
No,
see the other
I
day
think.
in PMQs that Boris Johnson had a go at Keir Starmer for
Yeah.
not taking him to task, as well as Marcus Rashford? And people were tweeting like really weird flex when it's
Yeah.
I've been doing a shit job and you haven't been calling me out on it, as well as Marcus Rashford. And you know what, as well, as a massive football fan, and this is a long rant, but as a massive football fan, to this pandemic started off with Matt Hancock coming out and saying how footballers need to do more, trying to spin the PR away from how incompetent the government is to some sort of weird football related moral quandary, in the same way they're trying to say footballers shouldn't be hugging and celebrating because that's spreading coronavirus, trying to create some common man debate when it's just incompetency at the highest level in this government, to then be turned for Marcus Rashford, a 23-year-old British guy who plays football, who has so much pressure on him to do all these things. And it's funny, him coming out this week and saying, people close to him were saying for him not to get involved. They were saying, just focus on football. And for him to come out and take this government to task is really inspiring. And he's set a wonderful example to a lot of young people in this country about you've got to stand up and fight for what you believe in. And it doesn't have to be political. It's completely apolitical. It's just human-led. That is all it is. And fantastic. Thank you to him very much. Thank you, Marcus Rashford.
No, he's done an incredible job at taking the government to task. Two things out of this story. One, it just shows once again that Boris Johnson is completely good PR for him led. Honestly, I've always said this, and everyone around Boris Johnson always says this as well. If you want to get something done through Boris, you just have to make him believe it's going to make him look good, and then he'll do it. That's it. That's all he gives a shit about. Right? That's why I was on the phone to Marcus Rashford and like tweeting out all that stuff, being like, "Oh my god, like me and Marcus, I've had a good chat and all that stuff."
Me and Marcus have talked a jolly good lot about association football, amongst other things. He loves it.
At the end of this, it's because fundamentally, at the end of all of this, when he's left office, he just wants to be loved. He just wants the people to remember Boris and be like, "Oh, Boris was great. We love Boris. What a guy." That's all he gives a shit about. Don't ever give a shit about people or policy. The other very annoying thing about this story is it was another sort of come full circle moment for Piers Morgan, which it's becoming incredibly frustrating. And like James Acaster said on I can't remember what is it, Big Fat Quiz or whatever, a lifetime of being a dickhead does, like, a few good deeds do not make up for a lifetime of being a dickhead. Like it's, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a shame that his so he has integrity and journalistic integrity. Like he wants to be similar to what you're saying about Boris Johnson. He wants to be known as being a really top journalist and
Mm,
clearly thinks of himself as that. And he knows where the wind blows. And he is taking this government to task more so than the actual journalists in the mainstream
mm.
mainstream media because it's ITV one, but in broad what's it called? Broadsheet papers. Broadsheet
Yeah.
paper journalists. And he is doing a better job of that than them. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's
I
still.
think Piers I think Piers Morgan is smart as well, and he knows that, especially with, like, how much the broadsheets are read and how much, like, news is just so throwaway in them because it's all online now, and, like, and the
Yeah,
story's up for a second. To actually make a splash and make a headline, you need to have an audience, and he got that audience through Good Morning
he
Britain.
knows. Good
So
Morning
now,
Britain, and yeah, and the 2 minute clips. He knows if I get an MP on Good Morning Britain, I need to make this 2 minute clip as showtime as possible. I need to make
yeah,
it as American as possible to be like, so can you confirm for me, sir, that this happened? Right, make it really big and performative, and that is what happens. And these clips do go viral.
mm.
So, but yeah, he's not a good person.
Wouldn't it be good if there was a good person or a
Um,
journalist with some serious integrity who didn't hack people's phones, who could, like, do that? That'd be amazing.
my mate made the point that,
Allegedly.
and going back to the prime minister, that it's one of the biggest, best PR jobs done. That everyone in this country does refer to him as Boris and not
Oh,
Mister
yeah.
Johnson. Like every other prime minister will be referred to either as their full name or Prime Minister
Blair, Cameron, yeah.
Blair Cameron, all that sort of stuff. But everyone's like
Theresa
Boris.
May, to be fair, no one ever said May.
But no one called her Theresa either. They called her Theresa May.
Theresa May, yeah,
They
yeah,
would call
Theresa May.
her Prime Minister Theresa May. You see what Theresa? Did you see that dance that Theresa May did the other day? At least it would add that
Yeah.
level of like it's
If
a
you were just like, "Oh, did you see what Teresa did?" That's
no,
a
no
bit
one
like
said that. Everyone would be like, "Who's
like
Theresa?"
Sharon down the road.
Yeah,
What?
Prime
Yeah.
Minister. You call the Prime Minister Theresa. What the fuck is
Yeah,
wrong with
yeah, yeah.
you? But everyone calls him Boris. It makes him so much more likable and um, less accountable. It's like it's just Boris. Boris just having a laugh and stuff. Anyway,
Bojo.
but I do those guys away. I do want to take the point that is genuinely, and look, I have been very uninspired as a Man United fan over the last 8 years, no doubt. And if you're a football fan, you'll know why.
We're not talking about this. We're not talking about this.
But but it really does give me hope. There are good people who do reach positions of power and will use that position not just wisely, but with love and affection and care for the community that they know has supported them. And I think Marcus Rashford is an inspiration to me, but I hope, and it seems like to a next generation who know that when you reach a position of power, you should use that platform to fight for what you genuinely believe in, and not just try and retain it through any sort of nefarious means necessary. So thank you very
Soci
much, Marcus Rashford.
Socially conscious,
Mhm.
people have more than ever, people with followings and eyeballs have the power. So, having using that and being
Mm.
socially conscious with it is more important than ever, especially in times like this.